Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. Coming up on today's show, King Charles III makes history in Washington, becoming only the second British monarch ever to address a joint session of Congress. What did the visit achieve and what does it mean for Britain, Nigeria and the Commonwealth? I'll be joined here at Westminster by Professor Chris Imafidon. And the Iran ceasefire remains fragile. Oil prices are still above $111 a barrel. I speak with energy economist Dr. Carol Nakal on what the Hormuz crisis means for global markets and for Africa. Then later, the UK economy is under pressure. Inflation rising, growth downgraded, energy bills climbing. James Smith of the Resolution Foundation tells us what lies ahead for households and businesses. And in Nigeria, a landmark moment for Akwa Ibom State. I was on the ground at Victor Atta International Airport as it prepares to launch its first ever international flight. But first, King Charles III has made history in Washington, becoming only the second British monarch to address a joint session of Congress, following his mother Queen Elizabeth II in 1991. The King opened with humour, describing the occasion as a tale of two Georges, George Washington and his own five-time great-grandfather, King George III. Please rest assured, he told lawmakers, to laughter, I'm not here as part of some cunning rearguard action. But the speech carried real diplomatic weight. Without directly naming Iran, the King made a clear case for multilateral cooperation and explicitly called on America to continue supporting Ukraine, drawing a bipartisan standing ovation. Before the address, the King met tech leaders including Bezos, Jensen Huang and Tim Cook at Blair House, discussing AI guardrails and British investment. At the White House State dinner, Trump called it a great speech. I'm very jealous. Today, the royal couple move on to New York. The visit comes at a charged moment. Trump has repeatedly attacked Starmer over Iran, making the King's soft power mission all the more significant. Meanwhile, here at Westminster, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer survived a Commons vote on whether to refer him to the Privileges Committee over the Mandelson appointment. 335 to 223, but only after Labour whipped its MPs to protect him. Starmer's former Chief of Staff admitted making a serious mistake, recommending Mandelson, who became ambassador despite failing security vetting. With local elections 8 days away, the political damage to Downing Street is real, even if Starmer has for now survived. The Iran conflict is now reshaping global energy markets, with consequences stretching far beyond the Middle East. Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz open, but markets are not convinced. Brent crude rose 3% yesterday to above $111 a barrel on that very announcement. Before the war, 129 vessels passed the strait daily. That number has collapsed to single figures. Goldman Sachs has raised its price forecast, and Citi warns of $150 a barrel if disruption continues through June. I spoke with Dr. Carol Nakal, CEO of Crystal Energy.
So overnight, we heard that Trump was urging Iran to just give up, while Iran's parliament speaker is publicly mocking the US pressure campaign. Does that hardening of language on both sides make a resolution even less likely?
Well, it depends, because it depends on how you read it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because sometimes you can have this kind of hardening of language during negotiations, as if somebody's showing, I have bigger, stronger leverage on you. But as long as they are talking, it's good. But once they start killing each other, that's bad. Still, the market is feeling nervous because they are translating a hardening of the statements and made by officials, whether in Tehran or in Washington, as also a reflection of maybe the deal is not, or the negotiations are not going as well as people hoped for, and that could lead to a return to military conflict. And that's why we are seeing prices where they are today. They are much elevated than they were only 2 days ago. A credible reopening means a return to pre-conflict activity, trade of LNG tankers, of oil tankers, and other also ships crossing the strait, and without the risk of having a drone or a missile hitting or heading in your direction. This is really a credible opening. Not one day we open, we let one or two ships go through, another day we hit another with a drone. So really, for the market to genuinely believe that the strait is open, it has to be a resumption of trade to pre-conflict activity, maybe not fully, but at least not one or two ships per day, and at the same time the risk of attacks completely removed, because otherwise the insurance risk will continue to be high and many will hesitate to go through the strait. Maybe it might be permanent, but the market was not going to continue to react permanently in the way we are seeing it today. So the markets today are more on a roller coaster because of all this political uncertainty that changes with all the political mood, I would say, in Tehran and in Washington. But markets adjust. So crises, no matter how long they last, they are going to create some dynamic changes in the market, and those changes will stay with us for a much longer period of time. Among the changes that you should expect in the market is more supply coming from outside the region. Already we have eyes on Venezuela. We always said it's not going to happen overnight, but there is a huge potential there, as there is a huge potential also in African countries and elsewhere. But there is also the demand. We should not underestimate the potential permanent destruction in the demand, because that demand, when we adjust, when we move away from, let's say, gasoline car to electric car, we stick to the electric car and we don't go back to gasoline fueled car. So these are the things, this is how market will adjust, and the permanent changes will stay with us irrespective of the crisis. Africa is pretty diverse because you do have established oil and gas producers, and they are benefiting from high prices because that generates significant windfalls to the government and to the national oil companies. But you also have the energy import dependent, and they are the one who are most exposed to the situation in the Middle East and to higher prices. And typically, when you have a notable share of the population suffering from energy poverty, because we know in Africa, many areas we do have this problem, then that creates much bigger vulnerability, which in turn can also increase problems in the longer term from economic perspective to social perspective and maybe to political aspect. So it's really not a nice situation for many people in Africa at the moment. But again, it all depends on how long the current conflict in the Middle East will last. If it's going to last until the end of the year, at least, with these high prices, and I fear the damage is going to be quite big on many poor economies in Africa. If the situation gets resolved very soon, then yes, there is some pain, but hopefully it is temporary, and then we can recover after that much quickly. Look, with any crisis, we have to face it. There are winners and losers. So when prices go up, anyone involved in selling oil will benefit. Governments who own the resources and who have national oil companies, they will benefit from higher taxes, from higher revenues. But even in Europe, even governments who charge a lot in terms of gasoline taxes at the pump, like here in the UK, more than half of what you pay at the petrol station is taxes. So also governments benefit to a certain extent. But for all consumers everywhere, and particularly in Africa, where people spend a bigger share of their income on energy, then the pain is much bigger. And for me, when I look at pain versus benefit, when I think about the population, then definitely I see more pain than benefit.
Here in the United Kingdom, the economic consequences of the Iran shock are landing with real force. Inflation hit 3.3% in March, the largest rise in months. Growth forecasts have been cut. The IMF and OECD have handed Britain the largest downgrade of any major developed economy, raising the spectre of stagflation. I spoke to James Smith, Chief Economist at the Resolution Foundation.
I think in terms of the effects of what's going on in the Middle East, we're basically in the foothills of the economic impact of all that. So all we've seen so far in the UK is a rise in petrol prices that's adding about a quarter point to inflation at this point. We'll get another bump from even higher petrol prices next month, but bigger increases are coming in the context of particularly energy bills for UK households. So that's going to be the big ticket item in terms of inflation. How far and how high those bills rise really depends on what happens in the Middle East. So we could see a bump of around £200 based on current market pricing to energy bills in July. So that's a pretty chunky number, and certainly the one that the government should be thinking about. But there's big uncertainty about where all this goes, and we need to be ready for even larger increases. I think the government does have some time here. So the next thing families are going to see is a fall in their energy bills. So the government has taken some policy costs out of energy bills. So we're seeing about £130 fall in energy bills in at the sort of current bills that are landing on mats at the moment. But in July the bills will go up again, but we don't use a huge amount of energy over the summer. So it really matters where we get to at the next price cap point in October. So and what the Chancellor really needs to do is talk about how she's going to put support in place if bills are rising considerably at that point, and really reassure families that she is thinking about their plight, is able to provide support and provide confidence in the government's response. Well, when you import energy the way the UK does, then the combination of rising prices, the effects of the war more broadly on confidence, what it's doing to supply chains, families, all that sort of broader economic impact, then that really is going to lead to higher inflation and lower growth. So you have this stagflationary combination that has been so toxic in recent years. So that's a really important context for what the government is doing. The reason we are hit so hard is partly because we're so exposed to gas prices. We're very reliant on gas for domestic heating, unusually so relative to other rich countries, and we're also financially exposed given our stretched fiscal positions and big rises in the cost of government borrowing. So all that means the government has to respond in a way that takes all that into account. So that means helping people with their energy bills, those rising cost of gas that affects electricity bills as well, but also taking account of the fact that we aren't in a position to borrow lots to do that. So the government needs targeted support through a system of subsidies aimed at those who are on lower incomes. So bringing together the group of families who are on lower incomes but also consume a lot of energy. Those are the families that are going to be hit hardest by all this, and those are the people the government needs to target. What we've seen so far since the start of the war is not just higher rates for people trying to get a mortgage, it's also been a withdrawal of mortgage products, uncertainty facing banks is really constraining their lending. So it's a higher prices for mortgages. So the rate rises we've seen so far could add as much as £100 a month to typical mortgage rates if we look at the highest increases in interest rates since the start of the war. The interest rates are a little bit down since then, so the news might be a little better if you're trying to get a mortgage in the coming weeks. But also it's this disruption to what banks are actually offering. So higher rates, a very different outlook, and that's another thing that will hold back the economy, hold back growth, make all of this a stagflationary shock to the UK economy. Well, the added difficulty for countries in Africa who are importing particularly commodity-heavy goods is that rich countries are, in a lot of cases, giving household subsidies to continue spending, or suspending taxes, all that kind of thing, essentially bringing down the price of the thing that is affected by the Middle East war, namely energy. And all that does is push the adjustment away from richer countries and towards other countries facing bigger hits to what they have to do. So we've seen fuel rationing in some countries. We've seen bigger shortages in terms of those key fuels. But you're right to mention food prices, which take about a year for prices in the shops to really reflect those higher commodity prices. So that will take time to feed through, whereas energy prices rise quite rapidly, and you can see them straight away at the petrol pumps. Food prices are different. It takes time for fertilizer effects to bleed into lower harvests and that sort of things.
That was James Smith there, Chief Economist of the Resolution Foundation, warning that what we are seeing today is only the beginning, and that for African and emergent economies, the adjustment ahead may prove the hardest of all. Still to come on Channel's Business Global, the biggest business stories of the week, and Professor Chris Imafidon joins me here at Westminster on what the King's visit really achieved. And I'll also be taking you to Akwa Ibom. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. In a moment, Professor Chris Imafidon joins me here to discuss King Charles's historic Washington state visit. But until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. BP has reported its strongest quarterly profits in years. Underlying profits more than doubled to $3.2 billion in the first quarter, driven by what the company called an exceptional performance from its oil traders cashing in on Iran-driven market volatility. The results are the first delivered by new Chief Executive Meg O'Neill, a stark illustration of the Iran crisis's uneven impact. The same shock hurting African fuel importers is delivering a windfall for the world's largest oil producers. In the United States, one of the most consequential legal battles in AI history has begun. Elon Musk has taken the witness stand suing OpenAI and co-founders Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, accusing them of betraying the non-profit mission on which the company was founded. It is not okay to steal a charity, Musk told jurors in Oakland, California. OpenAI fired back, arguing the lawsuit is primarily an attempt to damage a rival to Musk's own AI company. The 3-week trial could shape OpenAI's future as it approaches $1 trillion valuation. And luxury house Prada is launching Indian-made Kolhapuri-inspired sandals at the £650 a pair, less than a year after being accused of cultural appropriation for showcasing nearly identical designs at Milan Fashion Week without crediting their origins. Prada has now partnered with Indian artisan groups, launched a 3-year training program, and will sell through 40 stores worldwide. Now, what did the King's Washington visit really achieve, and what does it mean for Nigeria, the Commonwealth and the African diaspora? Joining me earlier here at College Green in Westminster was Professor Chris Imafidon, Advisor to Royals and Governments and Chair of the Excellence in Education programme. Professor Chris Imafidon, it's always a pleasure having you on Channel's Business Global. So King Charles addressed Congress, only the second British monarch ever to do so. You, of course, have a personal connection with the royal family. What did that moment mean to you? And what was the King really saying to America and, of course, to the entire world?
It means that he's a global player. It means that he's cross-continental. It means that he can reach places where most politicians elected to lead for a specific period of time will not be able to reach.
The King met Jeff Bezos, Jensen Huang, Nvidia and Tim Cook, outgoing Apple CEO, at Blair House. He was speaking about AI guardrails and British investment. I know you're shortly going to be off to an AI event in Excel where you'll be speaking. What does that tell us about the role of the monarchy as an economic diplomacy tool in 2026?
He is the #1 ambassador for the country. He embodies the needs and the aspirations of the country. So what we're saying now is that the next wave of economic power lies in technology. Most monarchs are strapped in traditional ways of doing things. They haven't modernized. But he's showing that, look, he will reform, he will re-energize, and if anything, he will change if change is necessary. And the way he's leading with technology, the royal family has an Instagram page. They have a Twitter page, or what they now call X page.
Yep.
They have Facebook page. Some people still live in the dark ages of having newsletters. but he has to communicate with 56 different nations. So he uses it most effective too. So if you're not in technology now, you are losing quite seriously. You are getting less than a quarter of what you're supposed to get. So technology is not there for you to use or not to use. It's not a fashionable thing. It's a necessity. And he's really pushed the aspect of technology and AI governance in a very aggressive way.
Professor, beyond the pageantry, as you know, relations between Westminster and Washington are pretty strained. Trump has repeatedly attacked the Prime Minister over Iran. Do you think the King's visit actually moved the needle a little bit, or is this more symbolism than substance?
Oh, well, there was substance. Remember, Yvette Cooper was there, the foreign secretary, to paper over some crack. So he came and jumpstart an aspect that most of us don't see in front of the camera, trying to see where are the essential areas that we disagree when it comes to the Middle East and peace, and where do we agree, and how can we bridge that gap? Because if we don't, our mutual interest is threatened. When oil prices rise, it affects every car, whether it's in DC or is in Newcastle. It doesn't matter. So because it has a global impact, we all have to look at how we can mitigate things.
From a Nigerian and an African diaspora perspective, this is a king with a deep personal commitment to the Commonwealth and to Africa. We spoke about it last month, didn't we? What does this Washington moment mean for that entire relationship?
It's funny you said that, because he didn't just introduce himself as the king of the United Kingdom. He said he was also the head of the Commonwealth. So he was not just representing Great Britain, he was representing Commonwealth nations that speak English, the culture of English. And he joked about the president once saying that if America did not have Britain, German would have been the biggest language. And he said if Britain did not have America,
we would have been speaking French.
Would have been. So he's very subtle. The language is a skillful art that you play, and he really positioned it very well.
He did, didn't he?
He's the true son of his mother.
It did go down well, I must say. Finally, Professor, Trump has called it a treasured friendship and an eternal bond. How special is that special relationship really today?
It is special. It vacillates, depends on the temperature, the political temperature. So if there's a conservative party in power here and there's a Republican party in power there, it may hit its peaks, or it may hit its trough if there's Labour and there's Republican. But it stays the same. It's a marriage, and it stays. It's going to endure all storms and tempests.
Professor Chris Amafoden, thank you as always for your expertise today. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And finally, a story that takes us from Westminster to West Africa and a moment of genuine historic significance for Nigeria. Victor Atta International Airport in Akwa Ibom State is on the verge of its first ever international flights, a landmark in Governor Pastor Umar Eno's drive to transform the state into one of Nigeria's leading investment and aviation hubs. I was there, 27,000 square meters across 3 floors, 5 boarding gates, capacity for 3 million passengers a year. Officials say it will become the first major international gateway to the entire Gulf of Guinea. A different kind of grace and a powerful reminder that across Africa, the work of building the future continues quietly and ambitiously, even as the world's attention is fixed elsewhere.
When international operation commences here, the entirety of the South-South will find this as their hub, because rather than fly to Abuja or Lagos to make a flight to London, Johannesburg, or even Cameroon that is next door here, they will prefer to drive in their vehicles to. Your families will want to stay here, and that will add to the development of tourism in the state. The stock of tourism has been propelled by Governor Mono would be raised to a crescendo that will really work for the people. Right now, people are already coming here. People from nearby states are coming to fly from Uyo to either Abuja or Lagos, or connecting their flights to Accra, maybe through Ibom Air. So all of those will add to the tourism development. So this facility is obviously a game changer for tourism.
All we can say to him is congratulations for pushing this to this prime time. It's good to start mega projects, but finishing it takes a different kind of grace. So for him to take this on with all the myriads of issues that he was already dealing with in other sectors and taking it to this positive conclusion, it's in terms of memory, in terms of legacy, it's a big one for him and even our generation.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.